Pat Murphy on the line, Bucknuts 247 Sports. Join him and the rest of the staff there. Join us here at the Voice of College Football for Ohio State football coverage and college football coverage every day. All right, let's hit the offensive line. Of course, they make it all work. And two really good players in Wyatt Davis and Josh Myers move on. Two elite players are on the flanks in Thayer Munford and Nicholas Petit-Friere when we look at Ohio State's offensive line. And maybe not to the degree of the wide receiver core, but if you look across national publications, typically Ohio State's ranked number one or at least two or three in terms of offensive lines.
Yeah, that should certainly be the case this year. Ohio State, I think Pro Football Focus has put out a handful of things about Ohio State's offensive line and where it ranks nationally. You mentioned the two tackles. Thayer Munford came back for a fifth year. Nicholas Petit-Friere is here for his, I think he's a redshirt junior this year. Two guys who, especially in Thayer Munford, have a lot of experience. He's at left tackle. Nicholas Petit-Friere started at right tackle last year. Arguably the two of the best tackles in the country. So good news for a young quarterback to have both sides protected. The question will be in the interior of the line. There's a lot of talent there. We saw Harry Miller last year play guard. He was a center. They recruited him to play center, was the backup to Josh Myers a couple of years ago. Up and down year, playing guard for the first time in college. Whether he moves back to center or stays at guard is a question. And then names to know: Matthew Jones, Luke Weipler. Does Matthew Jones play at the guard? He can also play center. Luke Weipler could play at center. So there's certainly options on this offensive line and some young guys that could emerge as well. But, the talent is there. It's just kind of figuring out the pieces. And I mentioned Harry Miller. He didn't partake in spring practice due to an injury. Offensive line coach Greg Studrawa did say, however, that he expects him to be one of those top five. And one guy I haven't even mentioned yet who I think will still be a part of the offensive line is Dejuan Jones, a guy who was a three-star recruit, a huge human, 6'7", I believe. Yeah, 6'8", 360 pounds is what he's listed at on the Ohio State roster. Came in, they thought he was kind of a project guy a couple of years ago, ended up playing some. And from my understanding, they have talked with him about, we want to kind of rotate you in with the tackle positions, get you some more experience so that you can be the guy next year when Thayer Munford's definitely gone. Nicholas Petit-Friere could potentially be gone. So you may see some rotation on the offensive line, which isn't normal. Not a lot of programs do that. You want to get set with your offensive line. But, if you have the confidence in these guys to all three be able to do it at the tackle spots, I think that's a way to kind of keep everyone happy there and get everyone playing time. And as I mentioned, that gets Dejuan Jones experience for, assuming next year he is one of the starters at those tackle positions.
Pat, it seems like it's going to be a situation where you can't necessarily at the end of the campaign look at the Ohio State stats sheet on offense, look at all the individual numbers, look at the final totals, which could be number one in the Big Ten pretty much across the board, and say, this was a great offense. They got the job done. All the questions were answered. It's going to be more like, do they execute in difficult situations? Are they going to be pressed against Penn State, Indiana, Oregon in particular? And is this offense going to execute and not just rack up 50 points against the lesser teams in the league, but are they going to be able to execute against the better defenses in the league and then hopefully in postseason competition?
For sure. And I think that'll be similar to last year. That will be the bar. Does Ohio State win the Big Ten again? Do they make the college football playoff again? I think the defense has a lot of questions to answer. The offense is, at least at this point, where I think you could see carrying the team. I have no doubt that Ohio State will put up big numbers against, some of the, inferior Big Ten teams, so to speak. But it's staying focused to make sure that you get to where you want to go, and then handling your business against those other top teams in the Big Ten. And Indiana on the road, which will be interesting. That could be a game where, like last year, it's a bit of a shootout back and forth to some degree. So yeah, this offense is going to have to prove itself in the games that matter, because the numbers are going to be there. I mean, statistically, I think this will be up there with one of the best Ohio State offenses. Ryan Day and the rest of his staff have proven that they can, figure out ways to get the best out of these players, and certainly they have the talent. But it's doing it against other teams that have like talent that is going to be the big question for Ohio State.
Absolutely. Unless things just completely go off the rails unexpectedly. Yeah, the numbers are going
Sure.
to be crazy, but is there a 2-minute drive during this season that's going to be the difference between a playoff appearance and not,
Right.
facing, let's say, most likely CJ Stroud? All right. Good luck at the Ohio State offense, loaded with talent. Pat Murphy on the line from Bucknuts 247 Sports joins us on a regular basis to help break down the Buckeyes. Pat, we always appreciate it. Great conversation, and thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Anytime.